When I got married, I didn't mention a word about the apartment we lived in being inherited from my grandmother long ago, and how that decision saved me, because shortly after the wedding, my mother-in-law and husband began to show their true colors. But before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy watching. 2 years before meeting Maxime, Irina received news that turned her life upside down. Her grandmother, the closest and dearest person in her life, left her an apartment in her will. It wasn't a grand mansion in the city center, but a modest, cozy two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts, filled with memories and warmth. This apartment was more than just square footage. It was a symbol of her independence, her roots, her personal space. Irina remembered how her grandmother, a wise and strong woman, always taught her to rely only on herself. "Never depend on anyone, Irochka," she would say. "Only then will you be truly free." Those words sank deep into Irina's soul, becoming her life's credo. When Maxime entered her life, Irina was in no hurry to tell him about the apartment. It was something deeply personal, sacred, and she didn't want it to influence their relationship. She wanted him to love her, Irina, not her apartment. Deep down, she also felt a sense of unease, as if sharing this information would mean losing control. Maxime was charming, courteous, and seemed genuinely in love. He spoke beautiful words, gave her flowers, and Irina, tired of loneliness, believed in the fairy tale. They dated for a few months, and one day, while walking in the park, Maxime casually said, "You know, Irin, why don't we live at your place for now? Renting an apartment is just throwing money away. We can live at yours and save up for our own." Irina was caught off guard. She hadn't expected such a proposal, though she understood it was a logical step in their relationship. She agreed, but on the condition that they would both contribute to the household and the apartment's upkeep. Maxime eagerly agreed, and Irina, feeling a bit reassured, thought everything would be fine. After the wedding, things began to change. Valentina Pavlovna, Maxime's mother, became a frequent guest in their apartment. At first, she came under the pretense of helping, but her visits soon turned into inspections. She criticized everything: the furniture arrangement, the wallpaper color, even the groceries in the fridge. "Irochka, who cooks like that?" she would coo, peering into the pot. "Maxim is used to something else." Or, "Why keep those old curtains? They don't match the interior at all. I'll pick out new ones for you. I have good taste." Irina tried to ignore her nitpicking. She remembered her grandmother's words about patience and wisdom. Besides, she hoped that Valentina Pavlovna would eventually get used to them and leave them alone. Irina had a plan of her own. She observed, analyzed, and kept mental notes. Every comment, every action of Valentina Pavlovna, every sign of Maxime's passivity, she recorded it all in her memory. Maxime, sensing Irina's vulnerability, became increasingly passive. Work became something fleeting for him, changing with kaleidoscopic speed. One moment he was passionately talking about an ambitious project promising mountains of gold, and the next week he was complaining about unfair treatment from his boss and unbearable working conditions. Irina, initially full of sympathy, gradually began to feel irritated. She worked tirelessly to provide some stable income, while Maxim seemed to relish the role of an eternal seeker. "Ira, why are you so worried?" he drawled lazily, sprawled on the couch in front of the TV. "We're a family. Everything we have is shared. We'll manage together." Irina nodded silently, feeling a growing sense of resentment. For Maxim, shared apparently meant that she should ensure his comfortable existence while he pursued his elusive true calling. And family, to him, meant him, his mother, and Irina, who was expected to unquestioningly follow their lead. Valentina Pavlovna, as if given tacit permission, dug deeper into their lives. Her visits became daily, and her advice grew more insistent and uncompromising. She criticized everything, from grocery choices to furniture placement. Irina watched in horror as her cozy apartment, filled with memories of her grandmother, slowly turned into a soulless replica of Valentina Pavlovna's home. One day, Irina came home to find that Valentina Pavlovna had rearranged all the furniture in the living room. Her grandmother's beloved antique dresser was replaced with a bulky wall unit bought on credit. "Valentina Pavlovna, why did you do this?" Irina asked quietly, trying to contain her anger. "Irochka, what's the matter? I just wanted to make it better. That old junk was just taking up space. Now it's beautiful and orderly," her mother-in-law replied, oblivious to Irina's clenched fists. Worse still, Valentina Pavlovna didn't just rearrange furniture. She threw out Irina's belongings, old photos, cherished souvenirs, even favorite books. They disappeared without a trace, supposedly cluttering the space. "Ira, why do you need to collect all this dust?" Valentina Pavlovna would say, seeing Irina's bewildered look. "It just drags you into the past. You need to look to the future." Irina swallowed her resentment in silence. She realized Valentina Pavlovna was trying to erase her from her own life, replacing her with her own values and ideas. But the worst part was that Maxim saw nothing wrong with it. He would shrug and say, "Mom just wants what's best." The pressure soon became not only emotional, but also financial. Valentina Pavlovna constantly hinted at the need for renovations. "You need to update the kitchen, Irochka. New wallpaper, new tiles. Everything here is so old and shabby." Maxim jumped on the idea with enthusiasm. "Yeah, Ira, Mom's right. We need to renovate. We're a family. We should live in comfort." Irina understood that comfort in their minds meant an expensive renovation she would have to fully fund. She felt her savings dwindling, spent on the endless whims of Maxim and Valentina Pavlovna. One evening, during another of Valentina Pavlovna's visits, Irina reached her breaking point. She sat in the kitchen, staring at a single point, feeling rage boiling inside her. Maxim, as usual, was lounging on the couch, watching TV. "Maxim, we need to talk," Irina said, trying to stay calm. "What's wrong?" he asked lazily, not looking away from the screen. "I can't do this anymore," Irina said quietly. "Your mother is constantly interfering in our lives. She decides what we eat, what we wear, how we live. I feel like I'm losing myself." Maxim looked at her, surprised. "Ira, what are you talking about? Mom's just trying to help. She loves you like her own daughter." "Loves?" Irina gave a bitter laugh. "She's trying to control my every move. She throws out my things, rearranges the furniture, imposes her rules, and you don't even notice. You just let her do it." "Don't fight," Maxim said. "She just wants us to be happy." "Am I happy?" Irina asked. "Have you ever asked me that? Have you ever tried to understand how I feel?" Maxim fell silent. He wasn't used to thinking about other people's feelings, especially Irina's. He was accustomed to her always giving in, always agreeing with him and his mother. "I'm tired," Irina said, tears welling up. "I'm tired of the constant pressure, the endless dissatisfaction, your indifference." Maxim, seeing her distress, tried to hug her, but she pushed him away. "Don't touch me," Irina said. "I don't want to be part of this family anymore. I want a divorce." Irina's words hit like a thunderbolt. Maxim was stunned. He hadn't expected her to be capable of this. "Divorce?" he stammered. "Are you serious? Yes, Irina replied firmly. I'm absolutely serious. Maxim jumped up from the couch and began pacing the room, nervously rubbing his hands. Have you lost your mind? How will we live? What will Mom say? That's not my problem anymore, Irina replied. I'm filing for divorce and I want you to leave. At that moment, Valentina Pavlovna walked into the room. She overheard Irina's last words and froze in the doorway, her face a mask of shock. What's going on here? She asked, glaring at Irina. Irina's filing for divorce, Maxim said, feeling the ground slip from under him. Divorce? Valentina Pavlovna raised her voice. Have you completely lost your mind? Do you realize what you're doing? I know exactly what I'm doing, Irina replied firmly. I want to be free. I want to live my own life. Free? Valentina Pavlovna sneered. You'll be nothing without Maxim. Who will want someone like you? That's none of your business, Irina said. I'll figure it out. Valentina Pavlovna stepped toward Irina and grabbed her arm. You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back to us on your knees. Irina yanked her arm free and stepped back. I'll never crawl back to you, she said. I'd rather be alone than live with you. Maxim, of course, didn't take her words seriously. He was used to Irina always compromising, avoiding conflict. He was sure this was just another emotional outburst that would fade with time. Come on, Ira. Don't be ridiculous. He brushed it off. We're a family. Everything we have is shared. No, Maxim, Irina said firmly, looking him in the eyes. We have nothing in common. You live in my apartment, eat my food, wear clothes I bought for you. And all this time, your mother has been trying to reshape my life to her taste. I don't want to live like this anymore. Maxim looked up from his phone, confused. What do you mean, your apartment? We furnished it together, did the repairs. It's my apartment, too. No, Maxim, this is my grandmother's apartment. I inherited it long before we got married. Maxim's face twisted with anger. He jumped up and began pacing, waving his arms. I wanted you to love me, not my apartment, Irina said quietly. But I was clearly mistaken. I demand a division of property, Maxim shouted. I'm entitled to half the apartment. Irina looked at him silently. She had anticipated this reaction. She knew Maxim wouldn't back down easily. The next day, under Valentina Pavlovna's close guidance, Maxim consulted a lawyer. He was full of confidence in his case. The lawyer, after hearing his story, didn't discourage him, but advised gathering any evidence of Maxim's contributions to the apartment's upkeep. Valentina Pavlovna took charge. She called all their acquaintances and neighbors, trying to find witnesses who could confirm Maxim's active role in the apartment's renovations. She even tried to bribe some of them, offering money for false testimony. Irina, meanwhile, didn't sit idle. She hired her own lawyer, a sharp-minded, tenacious woman in her 40s. They'll fight to the end, the lawyer warned. Maxim is convinced he's entitled to part of the apartment, and Valentina Pavlovna will do everything to help him. I know, Irina replied, but I have the documents. The apartment was mine before the marriage. That's good, the lawyer nodded, but it might not be enough. They could try to prove you used shared funds for repairs and improvements. We need to be prepared. Irina and her lawyer meticulously prepared for the court hearing. They gathered all the necessary documents proving Irina's sole ownership of the apartment. They also secured witness statements from neighbors confirming that Maxim hadn't been actively involved in the renovations. The day of the trial arrived. Irina felt a slight tremble in her knees, but tried to stay calm. She knew her future depended on the outcome of this hearing. The courtroom was thick with tension. Maxim and Valentina Pavlovna sat on the defendant's bench, heads bowed, looking defeated and confused. Maxim's lawyer, on the other hand, was confident and aggressive. The judge, a stern man with a piercing gaze, opened the session. Maxim's lawyer spoke first, arguing that Maxim and Irina had lived together for years, sharing a household. He claimed Maxim had made significant contributions to the apartment, including repairs, furniture, and appliances. Then it was Irina's turn. She calmly and confidently explained how she had inherited the apartment from her grandmother long before meeting Maxim. She presented the court with all the necessary documents proving her sole ownership. Maxim somehow decided he could claim it just because we got married. I think that's unfair, Irina said. Maxim's lawyer tried to challenge her, but the judge interrupted. Do you have any evidence that the apartment was acquired during the marriage, or that shared funds were used for its improvements? He asked. Maxim's lawyer hesitated, unable to provide convincing evidence. The judge listened carefully to both sides and retired to deliberate. A few minutes later, he returned and announced the verdict. The court denies Maxim's claims in full. The apartment is recognized as Irina's sole property. The decision is final and not subject to appeal. Silence fell over the courtroom. Irina felt an enormous weight lift from her shoulders. She had won. She had defended her independence and her property rights. Maxim and Valentina Pavlovna were in shock. They hadn't expected this outcome, convinced the court would side with them. This is unfair, Maxim shouted, jumping up from his seat. I'll appeal this decision. Calm down, young man, the judge said sternly. I've already said the decision is final. If you continue to behave this way, I'll be forced to take measures. After the hearing, Maxim, red with rage, stared at Irina with hatred. Betrayal. That's what this is. Why did we even bother with all this? The family? The wedding? His voice trembled, revealing a mix of anger and confusion. Irina looked at him calmly, without a hint of triumph. There was no gloating or desire to hurt him further, just exhaustion and quiet disappointment. I wanted you to love me, not my apartment, Maxim. I wanted us to build something together, not fight over what I inherited from my grandmother. Valentina Pavlovna, silent until now, rushed to her son and grabbed his arm. Her eyes burned with anger and humiliation. Without a word to Irina, she dragged Maxim toward the courthouse exit. He followed like a puppet, casting one last venomous glance at Irina. Irina stood alone in the corridor, enveloped by silence. It was over, officially, legally, irrevocably. A divorce with no division of property, a victory, or rather, a liberation. Returning to the apartment, Irina felt an odd emptiness. The smells of Valentina Pavlovna's cooking still lingered. Her tasteless vases and figurines stood around. Every item carried an intrusive, suffocating presence. Irina looked around. This was her apartment again, hers alone. But it brought no joy. Too much pain and disappointment had been tied to this place in recent months. She walked to the window and stared at the city for a long time. Her mind raced. What now? How do I live? Where do I start? Fear of the unknown gripped her, but alongside it, hope began to emerge. Hope that she could build her life as she wanted, without her mother-in-law's dictates, without a lazy and immature husband, without the constant guilt and obligation. That evening, the doorbell rang. Her friends Lena and Sveta stood at the door, carrying a bottle of wine, fruit, and pizza. "We're here to celebrate your liberation," Lena said cheerfully, hugging Irina. Sveta, always more reserved, added, You're amazing, Irka. Not everyone could do what you did. Now you're free to live as you want. The friends walked in and looked around. What a mess, Lena exclaimed, noticing the scattered items. No worries. We'll clean up and get rid of everything that reminds you of that Addams family. Irina smiled. Her friend's support was exactly what she needed. They cleaned the apartment, threw out everything that irritated Irina, and set the table. The conversation flowed freely. Her friends shared funny stories, caught up on news, and supported Irina however they could. Over a glass of wine, Irina opened up about her fears. I don't know what to do next. I'm scared to start over. I'm afraid I won't manage. Lena took her hand. Nonsense. You're strong, Irka. You can do anything. You have an apartment, a job, friends. What more do you need for happiness? The rest will come. Sveta added, just don't repeat past mistakes. Don't let anyone use or manipulate you. You're the master of your own life. Listening to her friends, Irina felt confidence growing within her. They were right. She had everything she needed. And most importantly, freedom. Freedom to choose how to live, who to love, what to do. Late that evening, after her friends left, Irina sat alone in her apartment. She sat on the couch, holding a photo of her grandmother. In the picture, her grandmother smiled her kind, wise smile. Irina always felt her support, even after her death. Thank you, Grandma, Irina whispered, for the apartment, for the life lessons, for teaching me to be strong and independent. In the days that followed, Irina threw herself into rebuilding her life. She repainted the apartment walls in soft pastel tones, bought new furniture, and hung paintings she loved. She gradually got rid of everything that reminded her of the past. At work, she earned a promotion. Her colleagues valued her as a professional and respected her as a person. She started dedicating more time to her hobbies. Irina began dating again, but now she was more cautious in choosing partners. She wasn't looking for a husband, but a friend, someone she could feel comfortable and interested with. One day, she met Andrei, an architect, intelligent, interesting, and independent. They talked for hours, walked around the city, went to movies and theaters. Irina felt at ease with him. Andrei never asked about her apartment, her money, or her past. He loved her for who she was, a smart, beautiful, strong, and independent woman. Irina realized she had found her happiness. She no longer feared loneliness because she knew she had friends, a job, hobbies, and a loved one. She was free and happy. Years passed. Irina and Andrei got married. They bought a house in the countryside, where they lived happily and raised 2 children. Irina often thought of her grandmother, thanking her for teaching her strength and independence. She also remembered Maxim and Valentina Pavlovna. She held no grudge against them. She understood they simply didn't know how to love or respect others, trapped by their own insecurities and fears. Irina knew she had made the right choice when she decided to divorce Maxim. It was the hardest but most important step in her life, a step toward freedom, happiness, and true love. She never regretted it. Irina often told her children, never let anyone dictate how you should live. Be strong, independent, and always follow your heart, because she knew that was the only way to be true.